How often do you hear older women on dating apps state things like, "I know my value, I'm searching for a partner to settle down," or "I don't have time for amateur games," or "I want something significant"? These are often the words of a woman who has spent years refining her profession or living her best life, and who is now searching for the nice man so that she can live the rest of her life with someone and not rot alone. Women in their mid-30s use older dating apps in the hopes of finally swiping right on any stable and fertile guys who can become their plan of retirement and help them reproduce and finally help make and then raise babies. They don't realize that older men have learned the hard way not to settle down with elderly women because they have been burned so terribly by divorce, child support battles, sexless marriages, and numerous rejections over the years. Older ladies might have found older men who would marry them in the past when most women were not out on display on streets, and because men were ignorant of women and the judicial system. However, when men began to witness their friends and family members being wrongly convicted in family court, and their supposedly loving wives turning on them because they were unhappy and for the love of money, men began to realize the deception of what was happening. Years later, men began to make the decision to go their own way. When you use dating apps today, you will still come across simps giving these older women attention, a lot of validation that they don't get from their current or previous husbands. This attention and validation, by the way, is still nowhere near the attention they used to pull in their younger years. When younger women took on the modern woman narrative, they were told that a man would always be there later on in their late 30s or 40s. They were told that it's okay to have your fun, mess around with guys, focus on your career, and eventually the right guy who will do everything for you as his life's purpose will come to you. But you know what? Over time, men grew wary, and men are not approaching women anymore. And even if they are not committing to them because they know the inside story of these older women. In order to get the guys they really wanted all to themselves, these women made the decision to put secure men on the back foot. However, this didn't work out as planned because casual dating culture, as we know it, was born as soon as social media and dating apps became widely used, marking the start of the slow demise of dating in relationships. Older women wouldn't be trying to find a man to commit to them on dating apps if there wasn't a hookup culture. And keep in mind who was ultimately responsible for establishing the hookup culture. The future of dating for women and the next generation of women was ruined by none other than women, and not men as some might want to believe. All because they wanted to date the guys they wanted and have casual fun with men who at that time were looking for commitment. Therefore, I would want to ask these older ladies who contributed to the demise of dating, was it really worth it? The sad thing is that the exact women who contributed to the decline of dating and relationships are still complaining about the lack of good men on dating apps today, and their daughters, who are now in their late 20s to early and mid-30s, are in the same situation, searching for a good man to settle down after failing to follow in their mother's footsteps. Due to how nasty divorce has become, none of those guys are attempting to get married, and no man wants to marry up a lady who has been plowed by dozens of men. Men are no longer prepared to risk their retirement savings for a woman who is only in it for the money and wants to grab all the guy worked so hard to achieve. Men don't want a wife or girlfriend who is simply dating them because the other men she loved didn't want her. More and more elderly ladies are beginning to understand that men are no longer idiots and that they have become accustomed to living without them and being much happy as a result. The elderly women you see on dating apps today are the same women who were supposed to be strong and successful independent women in the past. They're the same women now who whine all the time and radiate negativity across the internet. You guys need to keep in mind that these ladies have had years to try and change their negative habits and perhaps meet a nice man. A lot of these women were once married. However, they believed they could advance on their husbands, so they betrayed them, took their children and money, and then returned to the dating scene with the hope that they would bypass all the other women and land a top-tier man again. Wrong. Men have realized, and these older women now have no choice but to actually settle for someone they won't like. Never feel sorry for any of these women or try to save them because they volunteer to put themselves in that position in the hopes of getting a bigger and better deal. But the reality is frequently cruel because all that most of these post-war women received was someone who didn't want to commit to them like they wanted. Why would men choose to date an older woman when they can date younger women in their peak that they couldn't get before, especially in the current economic situation where we are due for another recession and times are getting tough? Men who have money have the option of dating young, beautiful women instead of an old tankers. So why would a man spend more money on a lady who is in poor physical condition and is seeking an unrealistic commitment? Never feel the slightest pity for any of these ladies. Instead, keep your veins cool and use them just for practice. Women are the ones who brought this on themselves by divorcing their spouses in search of better lives and better vistas. It stinks of desperation when you commit to an older lady who spent decades lending her time and body to other men while ignoring you as a potential choice when you were in your prime. You need to be careful when you're on dating apps, and these older ladies are paying you such much attention because they will divorce you to take your resources since they are not wife material and are only seeking a retirement plan. Why'd they regard you as a good choice now that they are older when they used to ignore and trash you in their early years? Yes, gentlemen, they are only attempting to capture you. I recently came across this article that says older women are being left in the wilderness in the online world. It says that women are really worse off on dating sites because men tend to pick women who are younger, and also because older women are in a rush to get into new relationships and commit long term. These women are also less likely to give men a second chance because they're old and have had their experiences growing up and now just want to have a committed relationship. Men, on the other hand, are much more likely to go for women, which, according to this article, is a shame because women in their 40s and 50s are able to give men more pleasure because of their sexual experience. Okay, gentlemen, as you can now see, younger women are frequently chosen on dating apps instead of ladies in their 40s and 50s. I mean, who didn't see this coming? However, they brought this upon themselves, so don't feel sorry for them and let's move on. According to Match.com's research, dating can be difficult for divorced women in particular because it can be complicated, anxious, and worrying to look for a second chance at love when children come first. Being a single mother can be really challenging. Trying to meet people in bars and nightclubs can feel like a younger person's game, especially when you need a single friend and a babysitter to get there. But not everyone feels that they will find love online. Single parents describe themselves as lonely, isolated, vulnerable, and worthless. There is a real sense that their world has shrunk. Let's examine a comment from a girl on one of these articles. Kelly says, "I'm the third of 4, and it's obvious as day that waiting this long was a mistake and makes things harder. Not impossible, but harder. Yet people constantly advise to take advantage of all this time and to go adventuring around the world. And this is fine unless you know you want a family. I'm having a child on my own, and I'll tell her to get married by 30 if you intend to have a family. But the reality is that for the best results, you cannot be waiting around doing your thing in your 20s up to late 30s and expect a guy to sweep you off of your feet when you're 40. She also has to resort to having children on her own because she can't find a man to start a family with. As I've said, don't feel bad or sympathetic for these people." She also didn't mention all the men she turned down who wanted to start a family with her or how she lived her best life on the carousel. But we know she wasn't at home sitting on her wet vice grip the entire time. So guys, as I always say, be very aware of women, and especially older women. They had their chance with you when they were younger and now want to try again just because they have had enough of the carousel and now want to settle down. Well, it's too late. Men realize their games and aren't going to play them anymore. Thanks for tuning in.